Hello, my name's Jorb. I love gear, and this is the Collision Devices Crushturnal. Firstly, what is it? It is a multi-effect. We have a reverb, a delay, a sample rate reducer, and all these orange knobs, I should probably go over here, are related to a master clock. They all share a master clock, and you can sequence changes to that clock with intervals and steps that you set. But changing the clock isn't just like syncing them all together, right? And this should be in the demo you're watching right now, but turning down the clock reduces, it's like a variable fidelity. You introduce artifacting, you get more noise, you have more pre-delay. It's a variable fidelity that all these things share. That's kind of the marquee feature, like the idea that you have so much of you have so many options. It's so variable in the way these things can sound and respond. Maybe the perfect spot for you is way low, maybe the perfect spot for you is way high. It's a cool thing to have control over, is all I'm trying to say. And sequencing that clock or controlling it with CV, which is very, very cool, you get these sort of like pitch jumping micro loops that normally would require a much more complicated pedal to accomplish. So yes, Crushturnal, dope idea, dope sounds. Collision Devices always kind of nails it, but I think they did again. That's it. This video is sponsored, so thank you, Collision Devices. If you're subscribed, thanks for coming back. If you're a patron, that means the world to me. If you want to support me any other way, affiliate links are dope. Any other, follow me on Instagram, whatever, that is in that is in the description. Why was that hard for me? I do that all the time. Anyway, let's hear some sounds. Here we are with my Wurlitzer 200. Which I love so very, very much. Vibrato is going to be all the way on. And I only know one key, so don't complain about it. The Crushturnal is a multi-effect. So I'm going to start with the Ambience, just these three white knobs. Diffusion, FX level, and filter. It is really, really big, ambient, pitch shifted, very, very bright reverb. Something I really associate with Collision Devices, and something I like quite a lot. This isn't the perfect instrument to display it. But still sounds quite good. I'm going to filter it down pretty dark. And C diffusion is really not that high, and it's still ringing out for a super long time. Just to give you an example of full. Really, really builds. So diffusion is sort of feedback, sort of room size, sort of reflections. More reverb and the level if we bring it all the way up. You can really, really hear it. But I like pretty subtle, pretty dark, and I'll change level to taste, or depends on the moment. Pretty self-explanatory, like these controls all make sense, but it sounds really, really good. Because Collision Devices has been good at making big ambient reverbs for a while. Okay, this is already a little more interesting. This is a digital repeater that does some more stuff. So level, time, and feedback. That's going to make sense. That's a delay. Sounds good to me. Simple digital delay. What's up with these two controls? If I turn up this sample rate, it's a sample rate reducer or a bit crusher. And this sort of mixer crossfader here, I can go from dry signal into the sample rate reducer, which means we won't hear any delay. Or bring in the delay. So this digital repeater is really one sort of self-contained effects chain that is a delay into a bit crusher, and you can mix between the delay or your dry to go into that bit crusher. Also cool, together, why don't we? Try and get these a little balanced. Less. That's what I think of when I think of collision devices, like successfully ambient. Not hard to get there. Sounds really good. Great, all sounds good. But you're probably saying, Jorb, there's all these orange knobs here. Yes, so there's our full sound, right? If I change this one big clock knob, that's affecting everything. The timing of our delay, our sample rate reduction, the timing of our reverb are all tied to this clock knob. And it's changing pitch of the reverb and the delays. Effectively, you're changing pitch with sample rate reduction as well, but... And as I get lower, it isn't just changing the times of these things and the pitch of these things, it's also the quality. So this will be really, really high fidelity. I like it a little crunchier. Super cool. And of course, there's more orange knobs and a whole foot switch we haven't talked about yet. Jorb, what is that going to be? Well, there's a step sequencer to sequence changes to the clock. So I'll set it up. Probably the simplest thing I can show you to start with. I'm going to turn the sequencer on, make the rate pretty fast. Do you see these LEDs changing? Hope that's showing up on camera. So right now, the step size is an octave, and I'm in the mode. It's like a square wave LFO, sort of. I think of it more like that than a step sequencer, but this bottom, this whole, what are these, the first four? They start where your clock's at, and they go up this interval. So if I set it to a perfect fourth. This is the normal clock. And the sequencer brings it up a perfect fourth and then back down. If I go up to this next option, it'll go up 2 steps. What do you think the next option is going to be? Well, actually, good chance to show you. If there's not enough room on the clock to make it up to or down to the point you have it, sort of set defined on mode here, then it just won't. The clock's got to be, I don't know, here. Yep, goes up 4 steps. And this last one here, if you can see that, I'll put a picture of it if you can't see it. But there's 2 groups of 4 and then a group of 3. And so there's 4 that rise that are 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, and then as high as it can go before it hits the clock range. And the same thing for descend. So if I go higher, that's where we are without sequencer. And it goes down Whatever we set. How about an octave? Or anything in between? I don't know. What is that? Minor sixth? Fourth is easier for the way I improvise. But yes, those same things, 1, 2, and 3 steps for descending, and then they have ones that sort of go back and forth. So let's put it in the middle. It'll go 1 up, and then 1 down, and 1 up, back to where we're at, 1 down. Da, boom, ba, 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 boom, ba, 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 boom. God, that diffusion is so long. And you know, the diffusion is really, really noticeable. You can turn off or sort of disconnect this clock from affecting either of the effects. I'm going to stop it from affecting the ambience, and we're going to keep listening to the delay doing what it does. Sequencer back on. Get the bit reduction in there so we can hear it again a little bit more. Super, super cool. There's also one called Tiny at the very, very end here. And that sort of lets you just modulate. This second to last one will rise and fall over the full range of clock here. Like one big triangle LFO. Crazy. If I leave it on Tiny and sort of pick a different mode that doesn't go all the way to the ends. Very, very subtle. Really, really like that. Super, super cool. I find I don't have the theory chops to really know how to play to work with these. So I find myself doing simpler stuff or relying on perfect fourths, perfect fifths, and octaves. And as cool as the sequencer is, I just want to remind you, you don't have to use it all the time. There's so many cool sounds to be found just between these two effects. And maybe you just want to mess with the clock a couple times. Maybe you end a song like that. Maybe you start a song like that. And it's very, very powerful, very, very effective. Changes so much. Even when you just have it affecting that delay in the bit crusher, you can't affect them separately, or you know what I mean? Like in this mode where I'm selecting what is affected by the clock. It's the digital repeater in its entirety, which is the crusher and the delay. I wouldn't mind if they were separate, but for the most part, it's not a huge deal. But even if I am controlling both the ambiance and the delay, it'd be cool to start a song like that, or it'd be cool to end a song like that. Even though it's very, very tempting to just use the sequencer and make it do crazy shit. This last mode on the LFO on the sequencer is totally random. And this becomes a sort of potential range for it, the step size does. So if you bring it sort of subtle, and bring the rate sort of subtle, again, it can be a sort of modulation. Another setting I like quite a lot. That's all I'm going to show you with the Wurlitzer. We have some other jacks on the back here. CV out to send the sequencer to other things, an expression CV in, and a sync in. And to show those off a little more effectively, I'm going to pair this with... Here we are now with the Polysix. I think it sounds fantastic, and just again, a reminder that without using the sequencer, you can get some really, really neat sounds. And this does really, really good with synthesizers. I did have to turn down a lot to avoid some clipping. But that's not anything I'm not used to. I think it sounds wonderful. Anyway, I was using the sequencer and I stumbled across something I want to demonstrate. So I'm on the mode where you sort of have your bass pitch on the clock and it'll go up and it'll go down. But I have the clock at a rate where it can only go down. So if we just listen to a sustained note, there it is in the low, and it's right back to the high, but it's spending twice as much time in that high, since I'm on an octave, that high octave, than it is in that low one. Having that modulation, certainly on an octave, having that modulation not be, you know, the same amount of time on and off, in some ways changing the sequence, in some ways considering it like a pulse width, works a lot better for me. I almost wish that low bit was even shorter, even more brief. I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to use, but it did give me an idea for something else to pair with this.